Hey, welcome to another Think Big live call. Jared Brader here with Audit Experts. Morgan Hutchings, Chief Strategist, Business Coach with me today. We're off site today and we're getting ready for a private day with some coaching clients. And one of the topics that's at the top of our mind is KPIs and intentionally growing your business through both historical data and then matching that historical data to where your vision is for the future and where you want to go in the future.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we had the conversation with an owner, a leader, a manager, a director of operations that is disappointed with their team's current ability to accomplish things, but can't tell us what success looks like or what good looks like because they don't know their numbers.
Right? Yeah. And you know, for me, these numbers in my business, these KPIs tell us basically the roadmap or the rules to achieve our vision and to fulfill the goals of the business. And then, as we know, if the business is being successful, your team members will be personally successful.
Yeah. And I think it's important too, like one thing on that point is if the team doesn't know that the business is successful, right? So like there are KPIs and we're going to get into roles and responsibilities and what numbers you should share with staff. But if the staff doesn't know what KPIs are, if they don't know the numbers of the business, they're not going to know if the business is successful or isn't successful. They might know that their position is successful, but if they don't know the health of the company, they're never going to know, are we in a good state here? Are we winning? Or are we losing this game?
Yeah. And I think if you go back to the previous, sessions that we've shot here about unhealthy business owners, right, and then building structure and then avoiding fires in your business, there's a lot of good content there. So if you're just now catching up with us, go back and watch some of the previous sessions. And for me specifically, I want to help you in your business figure out what are my roles and then what are the KPIs, what are the mathematical data points that matter for the future success of my business. So, I mean, we can use some examples from audiology. It's probably easier for you to kind of correlate, but even in our coaching business, even with accountants, real estate agents, I know you work with some real estate agents, what are those data points that help a person understand the mathematical way or the logical way to have success and help the business grow forward?
Absolutely. And I think, there's an immediate distinction there that Jared showed me years ago of what are the roles and responsibilities of the position that you're in versus, say, the job description, right? Because roles and responsibilities are not going to detail out that if there's trash on the floor, we expect you to pick it up. If it's Friday afternoon and it's trash day, we expect you to take the trash out. Your roles and responsibilities for a person and my roles and responsibilities in his business are my personal KPIs. It's those things that I know I'm accountable for. That's why we call it an accountability chart and not an organizational chart of who's boss, but who is accountable for what. So right off the get-go, knowing those roles and responsibilities is going to be key so that when you do hire somebody or you're giving new roles and responsibilities to a current staff member, they know what success looks like. They know what their personal KPIs or numbers or duties that they need to focus on.
And I want to start because I want to make this as generic as possible. If you want to dive deeper on your specific business or your specific roles, reach out to Morgan, MORGAN at audexperts.com, and he can help you specifically with your business or with the roles within your business. For me, just very, very top level, very introductory for the entrepreneur, you have a person, right, that starts a business. And then the first person they hire is generally a front office person of some sort, a paraprofessional of some sort. So think about our small audiology practices or accounting practices. We know the roles and responsibilities or the job description of that paraprofessional, that front office professional. Mm-hmm. What are the KPIs you think that you should share or that would be important to you in that role?
Definitely. I mean, if I'm going to be your front desk person, regardless, real estate front desk, anybody's front desk, client expectation, client relations is going to be at the top of that list, right? Mm-hmm. So we call them patient experience coordinators for our niche, but client relations is going to be huge, right? Answering the phone when it rings is going to be huge.
Perfect. Right? So let's just stop right there. So phone calls is probably the number one thing that your first hire as an entrepreneur is going to do. Mm-hmm. They're going to answer your phones of some sort.
Sure.
So if we're talking specifically about phones in your business, what are the KPIs or the data points that you track? Do you track them? And what do you need to track to get where you want to get in the future? Yeah. Right. So in that regard, like, do you think, what are the things that pop into your mind? What should we track? What can we statistically, mathematically track?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know what a lot of business owners want to track is the negative things like missed call rate, right? Or people that were tested, not treated, or not sold. But for a phones person, a lot of people they mention missed call rate.
Mhm.
And I think you call one of those, that would be a lagging indication there of things that are in the past, things we've already missed. But missed call rate comes up a ton. Call conversion rate comes up a ton. How many outbound phone calls can you make in an hour in a day? Those numbers seem to be important to all business owners, but which one's the most important?
Well, I actually, I think they're all important at different stages of the business growth plan, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs that might be listening are in what we call the startup phase of a business, right? Probably zero to their first million. They're wondering, how do I get a team? How does this business make money? How do I grow it, right? It's in startup mode.
Yeah.
And then when you go from startup mode and you transition into build mode, that's when you start hiring more and more people, 2 people, 3 people. And at each of those stages, all the way up to like franchising and multi-millions of dollars or exiting, has different needs. So your KPIs are going to change depending on the growth stage of your business. For this part, where we have one owner and we have one professional, and we're talking about KPIs, the data points you most likely need to know is how many phone calls a day, right? How many new client, new patient phone calls a day are we getting? Yeah. Of those new clients or new patients, how many of them are converting? Yeah. And of those that are converting, how much money is each conversion giving us? Yeah. Those 3 points are the bread and butter of almost any business. Yeah. And if we don't know those, missed calls don't necessarily matter because we don't know the dollar value of what a phone call is worth.
Yeah. So in that scenario, Jared, because you've been there as a business owner who's starting out, you hired your first front desk, you put them in charge of phones, they start making phone calls. How long until you know what success looks like? Like, when do you start judging how many phone calls is good or what we should shoot for? Is it 5? Is it 2? Is it 1? How do you know?
Yeah, I mean, for a startup business, I would say you need 90 days of data, right? So we do a lot in our business and in our coaching in 90-day increments. The human mind works in 90-day increments. So I would want to track data in a weekly scorecard for 90 days. And I would want to know if those are your 3 most important parts. How many phone calls did we have coming in? How many phone calls did we make going out? How many of those booked into appointments or into sales? And how much did we get from each one of those sales? Those 3 data points are really the basis. Now, something like missed call comes in if you realize you have a deficiency in your business, if you're overwhelmed, if you're not converting, then we start getting into what you call the negative tracking numbers. Yeah.
And also fair to say in those first 90 days, what you're really looking for is trends, right? Like the key number there being 3, the rule of 3. If you can find it, if you can see it 3 times in that scorecard, if you were to track it weekly and for 3 weeks or for 3 days, you can consistently do something, there's a possibility of a trend there, and then you can go ahead and duplicate that.
Definitely. So I hope what I would assign anybody watching today, know what your roles are. You probably know that I have X number of front office people, I have X number of sales people, I have X number of marketing. Like you know your roles, but do you specifically know what data points you track that help you achieve your ultimate vision of your company? Right. And they have to be very specific. They have to be trackable, and they have to be something you can track each week. So if you don't have those, start to brainstorm them, reach out to Morgan. We'll help you through coaching. We're going to help you understand what those should be to take your business from startup mode, or where it's at today, into build mode, into optimization mode, and on through the business growth cycle.
Yeah. And we talk all the time about how important it is to write those goals down, right? So if you are in your startup phase, if you have 1 to 2 to 5 employees and you're still trying to test the waters and figure out what works, you do have to write those goals down. It's even better statistically, 72% more likely to achieve those goals if you write the goals down and then you communicate those goals on a regular basis to your peers. So if you do write those goals down weekly, you create yourself a scorecard, you keep track of what you're doing, you set your goals 90 days in advance, you talk about them weekly, you are statistically more likely to actually achieve those.
So
goals.
you just pulling statistics out, or what?
Yeah,
I
was telling Jared about this the other day. So Gail Matthews did research out of the University of California about the productivity of writing down goals. And she did a study of 270 subjects from all walks of life, male, female, it was everybody. So On that study, she broke them up into groups, and each group was given, different ways of keeping track of their goals. And group one was assigned writing down their goals. Just write down what it is your goal is for the next 2 days or a week or whatever it was. And then group five, the others were told not to write anything down, just think about it, blah, blah, blah. Group five was told to write down their goals and then write down how they think they're going to get there. And then every single week and every single day, share those goals and their progress with the people they're with. If you write your goals down, what she found is you're 42% more likely to achieve your goal. If you write your goals down, you meet with someone regularly, you share your traction with someone, you're 72% more likely to achieve those goals. So there is a very, very real power in writing that down. And it's even more powerful if you actually share your progress with one of your peers, a leader, a manager, or the owner.
Well, and I think that's what we do with our scorecards, right? And with our coaching clients, we say, here's a software to use, here's a dashboard to use, so that we can track those historical numbers, which are lagging indicators of what we've done in the past, but they're also the foundation of where we can go in the future and how we get there. So I love that fact. I think the takeaway for me today is definitely have KPIs that directly relate with where you're going in the future, what the vision and the purpose of your company is. And then, as Morgan said, communicate those regularly so that your team is rowing in the same direction, helping you achieve your vision and your purpose as an entrepreneur. Specifically, Morgan, what I wanted to let everybody do is like go home and do that assignment and then reach out to you and say, hey, can I learn from you guys? So once you take that number, whatever stage of business you're in, startup, build, optimize, growth, expand, any stage, write those down, start thinking about them, reach out to us. And what I want to help you with is I want to give you the blueprint, how I've taken businesses from startups into multi-millions, how I've taken multi-million-dollar businesses into double-digit million-dollar businesses. We have the blueprints, we have the data points, we have the process broken down in the blueprint ready for you. And my job on this call, my job as your coach, is to compress time and give you the winning formula so that you don't make the same mistakes I made in the past. So take it home, take those KPIs, get to work on it, reach out to us, and we'll help you on the next stage of implementing those numbers.